What was it like to have absolutely no control over the outcome of Jesus' ministry? Think about it briefly for just a moment as we set up this text that we're going to read from in just a moment. It seems that from the very time that they met him, Jesus seemed to be in control. I mean, at his very baptism, when John the Baptist baptized him, there was affirmation that came from heaven and the voice of God saying, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." I don't know if everyone saw it, but enough of the disciples had to have either seen it or heard Jesus tell about his personal testimony of baptism, because the scripture declares that a dove came and rested upon his shoulder. And the voice from heaven said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." When Jesus attending a wedding in Cana of Galilee, right after his baptism, as he was beginning his public ministry, they ran out of wine. That's just a tragedy at a wedding in ancient Palestine. They ran out of wine. Well, what do you do when you run out of wine at a wedding? Well, unless you're one or two particular kind of denominations, you turn water into wine. That's what you do. And I love my friends who say it wasn't fermented. It wasn't fermented. Well, then it wasn't wine. It was grape juice. And it doesn't say he turned water into grape juice. And it must have been such good wine because one of the representatives there said, "You save the best till last." It was a miracle. You know where the water came from, don't you? The water came from the cisterns. You know why they caught water from the cisterns, don't you? It was usually for bathing before you went to worship in the temple. Why? Because you would bathe in water that was holy. And water that was holy either came from the mountain and flowed down from the Jordan River from the top of the mountain, and you could bathe in that water, or water that came from heaven. And you would catch it in cisterns, water that came from heaven. And you would take buckets of water out of that cistern, and then you would bathe in it and prepare yourself to go to worship at the synagogue or the temple. And so he asked them to take water out of that cistern, and it was there that he turned water into wine. It seemed like from the very beginning, Jesus was in control. Anytime he spotted someone who was deformed, a leper, he could heal the leper. Someone who was deaf, he could open up their ears. Someone who was blind, suddenly they could see. Jesus seemed to be in control for 3 years.